Buenos dias, Paul, and thank you for joining us today at Business Spotlight Series. Today, I am excited to introduce Paul Steven, partner of James F. Steven Architects. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you very much, Javier.
It's great to have you on our podcast, Paul. And first of all, just for the people watching the recording, my first question, you run an architect's firm. Was it when you were at school? Do you want to be an architect? How do you end up now running a business?
Yes, well, the business itself was actually started by my father. In fact, really both my parents, but my father being the architect. And that was actually now coming up on 50 years ago. And architecture probably wasn't my first thought when I was at sort of coming out of primary school into secondary school. But having a family business, I was kind of fortunate enough to have on the doorstep holiday employment from school. So I worked in the office, doing odd jobs, I suppose, emptying bins, taking prints, a lot of the kind of apprentice jobs, if you
Yes,
like. And then you start doing some drawings on smaller projects. And I really kind of fell into architecture that way through working in the family business in school holidays.
that's brilliant. So when you were at the school, was not part of your. You didn't gravitate towards architecture. It was just by accident in a way.
Yeah, yes, I think I grew into it, I suppose, as my school years passed.
Yes.
In my younger years, it probably wasn't my first thought, but I worked in the office. I enjoyed what I was doing. You get an interest in architecture, and it really went from there.
Yes. Now, tell us a little bit about the transition from working in the business to running the business, because now you run it with your partner brother.
Yes.
You have two offices, 12 people.
Yeah.
How long ago did you take over the business?
My parents only retired about 2 years ago, fully.
Yes.
Um, but even before that, my brother David and I were both partners in the business with both of my parents, or our parents, and another partner as well, who sadly passed away coming up 3 years ago. Um, so, I suppose post-university and getting my degrees in architecture, I actually worked for another practice in Edinburgh. Sage advice from my father, go and make your mistakes somewhere else before you
Yes.
come back here. Um, but I've been back working in the practice since 1998 now. So that's
Brilliant.
27 years, and have grown. And I was quite fortunate when I came back to the practice, in that the smaller office we have in Stirling, the architect who was running the office was moving away back across to Northern Ireland for family reasons. My father at the time had said, would I come back into the business and run the office in Stirling? So that gave me a little bit of independence and kind of managing a small office as a qualified architect at the
Yes.
time, and a bit of a kind of growth into becoming a partner in the business with a little bit of autonomy for an office, but always under the kind of umbrella of the wider practice.
Yes. Brilliant. Who is your ideal client? And by that I mean, what is the work you enjoy most and are best at?
Oh, um, I don't know if the two maybe are maybe the same thing, but certainly when you have, from an architectural point of view, if you have clients who have a healthy budget, it does give you an awful lot more freedom in terms of design and possibilities and what you can do. And some of the more kind of marquee projects that the practice have been involved in, not necessarily where we've been lead designers, but things like the V&A in Dundee, the cost, never mind for the building as a whole, but the cost per square meter to build something like that is far out with the reach and budget of most clients.
Yes, yes. Okay. Um, Tell us a little bit about what type of challenges do you come up against in running a business, in growing a business?
Yeah. Oh, where do you start? I
Yeah,
mean, the,
exactly.
there are many and varied, and I think they change as the business size and demographic of it changes. You know, one that we have had in the recent past, in the last few years, I talked about one of our partners who passed away, and my parents then retiring, is looking at succession planning. You know, and my mum and dad obviously had my brother David and I coming through the business as well. That was a kind of succession profile for them. But David and I have got to look at our succession plan for the business as well.
Yes.
Um, you know, a solicitor, in fact, our business solicitor, who's a good friend of my father's, used to say, you need to think of your business like a train,
Mm,
you know, and your train starts its journey at the first station and it will go through multiple stations. People get off the train, people get back on the train, but the
correct.
train has to keep going. And I thought that was a good analogy for the business. The business has to keep going. People will come and go throughout the business, but it keeps going.
That's a great analogy. And there is a book here, um, Jim Collins, Good to Great.
Hmm.
And in that book, he talks about getting the right people on the bus.
Yeah.
So the train keeps going to its destination, and it's getting the right people on the bus. And some people get off the bus and on the bus. So yes,
And it's about getting people with complementary skill sets for your business as well. You know, you don't
yes,
want to have everybody within your business that is good at the same thing. You
yes,
want people that complement each other, and
yes,
that brings out the best in the team as a whole.
definitely, definitely. Um, is there a particular talking about culture, company culture, values? Is there a particular trait you look for when you recruit people? Um, yes,
It it, it depends on the role, I suppose, that we are recruiting for. Um, and I said you need a kind of cross section of people. I mean, if it's an architect, you're looking for someone who's maybe got a little bit of a flair for design. If
yes,
it's a technician that we're looking for, it's somebody with, excellent technical skills and competence from that
yes,
point of view. And no matter which role it is, you're looking for somebody that's got the right character and personality that's going to fit in. Because with 12 people, we're a fairly small business, you know, and everybody has to get on.
yes,
Um, and, you know, in a business of that size, there's a number of the staff then become client facing and speaking to clients, and they've got to be the right character and person and portray the business in the right manner to their
yes.
clients.
Yes, no, very good. So, and how do you test that in the way that how do you ensure you get the right fit? Because with interviews, I come this very often talking to businesses. Something shows up in the interview, but then when they start working, says, who is this? It's how do you how do you go
It's,
about that?
I mean, it's very difficult because, we do interview people before we take them on for jobs, as you'd expect. And a lot of the time it's to see their portfolio of work and drawings and projects they've been working on, what sort of experience have they got, but also just to have a general chat and see what what they're like as a person, what their ambitions might be as well, because I mentioned that Dave and I have to look at our succession plan for the business,
Yes,
but not everybody that comes into the business can be a business owner or a partner.
yes,
And just because maybe someone is a good architect, it doesn't make them a good business
correct.
partner because it's a slightly different skill set that's needed
Yes,
for that.
yes.
Um, so yeah, I mean, you really just have to try and um, judge what you can from asking questions at an interview and what the person comes across like and their general personality is.
Yes.
And then you as you say, you often find out more once they're actually in the workplace in the first few months.
Yes. I was talking to a managing director last week, and he told me that they had promoted their best sales guy to
Mhm.
become sales manager, and it didn't work out.
Yeah.
and it's the exact same reason as you said, it's there. Yeah. So one thing I find a lot across great businesses is that they recruit attitude and train skill.
Mhm.
And that is a great principle to follow, recruit attitude because, either they have it or they don't. The
Yeah.
skill, if they are short the skill on something, you can train them up. But yeah, it's attitude means getting the right people on the
It,
train,
yeah.
as you
It,
say, right?
I mean, it's a great point, Javi, that, yeah, I mean, you can't maybe teach attitude and character.
Yes,
You obviously still need a certain base level of a skill set when you take
yes,
someone on for the job because you're taking them on to do a job and they've got to be
yes,
competent at least at doing that. And
yes,
you can hopefully then educate them and train them and give them some of the benefit of our experience to
yes,
take their skill set to that next level.
correct, correct. And also talking about the values, if you have concrete values in the business, those become the filter by which you attract the people you deserve and
Yep.
repel those values repel the people who don't have those values
Mhm.
and attract the people who have those values and they fit the culture like a glove in the
Yeah.
hand. So very, very powerful having, a set of values, not many, because
Yeah.
otherwise it becomes lip service, but
Yeah.
a few core values that defines you and defines what great people is in your business.
Yeah.
Very, very powerful.
Yeah, I think we've kind of got a uniqueness here in terms of our business, given that not only are we in family business, which I appreciate a lot of businesses are, but because of where we are located in terms of our head office out in Glams in the kind of rural countryside in Angus, that's not a location that maybe suits everybody.
Correct,
Who
correct.
young people might want to leave university, go and work in the big city, the kind
With
of
shops around.
yeah. And what you maybe tend to find you get out here maybe is people that are maybe looking to settle down, maybe people with a young family with looking for a good local school and this sort of
Yes,
thing. And these sort of things gel quite nicely with the ethos of being a family business as well.
yes, definitely. Um, what are the aspirations of the business? Say 5 years from now, where we like to be business wise?
Um, it's very difficult to say. I mean, technology at the moment is changing architecture and I suppose a lot of industries quite rapidly.
Mm,
There will always be a need for the human element of the architect, the skill of the architect and the artistic influence of the architect. But the advancements in it used to be computer aided design, it's now building information modeling, the sort of exponential advancement in artificial intelligence just now and what these things can do. It's difficult to say how that might allow the business to grow in terms of staff numbers because you
yes,
might find that the business can grow as a business, um, but less people can get through more work because of the advancements in technology. So it's at this precise moment in time, it's very difficult to kind of crystal ball gaze as to what the next 5, 10 years might hold.
mm. That's interesting. There are many many professions that are going to have to pivot
Mhm.
because of the advent of AI. And I guess the idea is to say, okay, what do we need to do to take advantage of a public good, which is there
Yeah,
for everyone to use, and we are architects. How can we leverage that? I don't know, I'm just thinking aloud, but
yeah,
in everyone's business, okay, how can I become faster, more competitive, add value? Maybe the projects become quicker.
yeah.
In the old days, it would take, I don't know, a month to do something. Now it says, look, I'm going to do a week and therefore I'm going to charge a quota of what I would have charged 2 years ago, but I'm
Yeah.
going to get more projects on.
It becomes, I think, about efficiency and about driving
Yes.
efficiency, I think.
Yeah, and delivering value to the ultimate client. So I think it's, how can we I'm talking for any business owner
Yeah.
watching this really, how can I add value with AI? How can I add value to our clients? Because to be honest with you, now I contact my solicitor and accountant less often because I go to AI. And I guess people will do that with all the professional services out there. So
Yeah.
there is a great book called Who Moved My Cheese? It's a very thin book. I think the same guy as who wrote the 1 Minute Manager.
Yeah.
And they talk about I'm going to say the architect, it's not an architect, the architect who wakes up one morning and the cheese is not there. So the mouse wakes up one morning, he had cheese every day. And one day there is no cheese. Who moved my cheese? AI came up and the market changed.
Yeah.
And so it's a challenge, but we need to
Yeah.
turn that into
Uh,
an opportunity.
yeah. And I think we don't know um, how that is going to maybe pan out at the moment and what form that might take. And I think at this precise moment, it's just about having an awareness that that is
Yes,
there and that there will
yes,
be a change and trying to remain agile enough to be able to take advantage of those
correct.
changes and move with them as you can, and that you don't get stuck and get left behind.
Yes, yeah. You said a very interesting word, agile,
Mhm.
which is to me the synonym of to adapt,
Yeah,
right? Agility to adapt. And I always say those who survive are not the strongest, but the ones who adapt the best to the
yeah.
environment.
And, and I think that's where, you know, the business is smaller in terms of a number of partners just now because it's just David and I. But what that means is, it helps your agility
Yes,
because if we want to move in a certain direction, do a certain thing, we just need to agree between us what we
correct.
want
You
to
are
do and we can go and
nimble.
do it. We don't have a board of directors that we've got to go and submit
Yes,
papers to and get approvals
yes,
from before we
yeah,
can do something.
yeah, definitely. Very good. Um, so now moving on a little bit, what do you do to relax? I mean, running a business is there is pressure there. What do you do outside your business to relax, to disconnect?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily relaxing, but as I'd mentioned before, away from the day job, the career, the family business. I'm also a director. I'm currently the vice chairman at Forfar Athletic Football Club, who are currently playing in SPFL League Two. Survived
Brilliant.
with our SPFL status by the skin of our teeth on the last day of the season. So that was actually maybe particularly stressful rather than particularly relaxing. But
Yes,
it's a very
yeah,
it's a different type of thing from
correct.
architecture and
Yes,
day-to-day business.
yes,
And I really enjoy the football. I would go and watch it recreationally, even when Forfar Athletic aren't playing. Sometimes it's my son playing, or it used to be my daughter
yes.
playing as well.
Wow.
Uh, so yeah, that's
Yes,
probably my main hobby away
yes.
from football.
Brilliant.
Not that you could consider running a professional football club a hobby.
Do you do you do any exercise, read or any other thing?
Yeah, I do actually, not that my figure perhaps tells it, but I do go to the gym fairly regularly. In fact, I was there this morning. Um, I still, when I can, play five-a-side football once a week. Um, that very much depends on need for children's taxi service to
Yes,
their events,
yes.
things. But yeah, I still do those things. I probably read most just when I'm on holiday. I maybe don't tend to read an awful lot day to day, but again, relaxing. If we go on holiday away, trying to switch off from business and other things, it's quite nice just to pick up maybe a fiction book that's divorced from reality.
Yes, yes. Um, I mean, I admire you for playing football. Because I stopped playing football when I was 25. I did my ligament, and when you
Oh,
go, I think when you go beyond 25, injuries, you are prone to injuries, and I'm amazed that you are still
oh.
playing.
Well, when I say still play five-a-side football, it's probably more correct to say that I amble around a sports hall at an ever decreasing pace.
Yes, 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 yes. Still, you are there. Um, Brilliant. So do you have you read a book that you may want to share that either you liked or had an impact in many aspects of your life,
I'm not sure if there maybe is a book that has
or a
necessarily
podcast?
done that. Or a podcast. I tend not to listen to podcasts really.
Yes.
Not something I've done a great deal of. My kids both listen to them all the time.
Yeah, yeah,
Not really something I've done, but as I say, it's more sort of fiction novels I will tend to read when I'm on holidays and things. I don't think I know when you and I spoke before, you said there had been books that had changed your kind of life and direction of where you were going, and I don't think I've maybe had that um, moment from a book.
yeah. Okay, fair enough. In that case, I'll ask you another question, putting you on the spot a little bit here. It hasn't been prepared.
Yes.
Is there anybody, either living or from the past, from history, that you could, I wish I could spend a day with in the life of somebody you look up to for any particular reason, either living or from the past?
Wow. I think architecturally speaking, um, I think it would have been really intriguing to have spent a day with somebody like Frank Lloyd Wright, who was
Okay.
a very famous American architect back um, last century. Did some lovely buildings in United States um, across a variety of different parts of the country and in different styles, but very a great deal of craft to the buildings that he did. Um, and also, by all accounts, seemed to maybe be a bit of a character as well. So I think that could
Yeah,
be quite interesting and maybe a bit of fun as well.
yeah, definitely, definitely. The what is this famous architect, Foster, John Foster, is it?
It's Sir Norman Foster.
Yeah, Sir Norman Foster. Yeah,
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 so
yeah, yeah.
Sir
I've got
Lord
an
Foster.
architect friend who looks up to him, and anything he does is
Yeah,
woo.
so
Brilliant.
yeah.
Great. Okay, well, my final question, Paul, is what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
You'd probably give multiple pieces of advice to my
Go for it.
18-year-old self. I mean, one thing, say my son, as I told you, is 16 just now, so it's coming up to an appropriate question to ask, what advice would I give him? And I think career-wise, and it's maybe a little bit cliched and quite a famous quote, but if you find a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
And if you find a career path, a project that's something that you enjoy doing,
Yeah.
the rest of your life and your working life and your career will be so much
Yes.
more enjoyable and easier.
Yes.
Um, and as well as that, the one piece of advice I have actually given to my son is to consider maybe when he leaves school before university, around about at 18, consider going and doing some traveling and see the world because it's very easy to get caught into you leave school, you go to university, you do, well, for architecture, 5 years studying at university as well as then separate years in practice. Then you get a job and you're caught into that and you lose the opportunity for doing that. So
Yeah.
when you have an opportunity either between school and university or between university and work to travel and see a bit of the world,
Yes.
I would go and advise my 18-year-old self to take that opportunity.
That's brilliant. By the way, any of your kids is gravitating towards architecture?
Um, Not particularly. My daughter, who's a little bit younger, she's 14, is very good at her art, and is perhaps showing an interest in maybe interior design rather than architecture. But I suppose similarly and related. My son has no interest in architecture.
Mm. By the way, is there a trait in the industry that children follow their parents? In my case, my dad was in business. I'm in business.
Yep.
Is there a trait in the architect community that at least a child follows the trade, if you like?
Um, I wouldn't say it's a massive trait. There are some practices that I'm aware of where there have been a generation has followed the previous generation through to run the business, but
Mm.
I wouldn't say it's particularly commonplace.
Yeah.
Um, I think that the nature of architecture, you actually get a lot of practices that are sole practitioners. It's one
Yes.
person working themselves, and there maybe isn't so much of a business there that can support a child coming through as well, hand over.
Yes.
We were quite lucky that our family business was of a nature that suited that.
Yes. Well, if you want any of your children to become an architect, do what your dad did. Bring them to the office.
Yeah,
Can you do this filing? Can you do this?
yeah,
And before you know it, they are taking over the business, and you can retire.
yeah.
There you go. Brilliant. Well, Paul, it's been a real pleasure having you join us today at Business Spotlight Series and for
Likewise.
sharing your experience and your journey with us today. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Javier.